38th Annual Miracle Mile Residential Association Community Meeting. Thank you all for coming. Woo, we're here. I don't recognize you without your Zoom box around you. It's been quite a 4 years, and while you guys have been taking it easy at home, boy, has the MMRA board been busy at work. Thank you so much and welcome. My name is Katy Garcia. I am one of the vice presidents for the MMRA and also the Neighborhood Watch chairperson. Now don't be disappointed, this is not going to be an hour and a half in service on Neighborhood Watch. I know you're disappointed. I will provide that to you later. We are happy to meet here again as a community. We are looking forward to an exciting agenda with lots happening and planning for our future as a neighborhood. First of all, thank you so much to the Korean Cultural Center for hosting us one more time. Round of applause to the Korean Cultural Center. And we have Josh up behind you who is going to make us all look good today. Right, Josh? Thank you. I would like to take a moment to introduce our board. Many of them are busy working, so I'm going to list off their names real quick. We do have our president, Greg Goldin. Round of applause. All right, we'll hold. Yeah, he does deserve a big round of applause, but we'll hold the rest for later. We have the infamous, or famous, Joe Steins, Treasury and Secretary. Samantha Friedland, Vice President. Kimberly Klein, Vice President. Jim O'Sullivan, our ex officio. Alan Taylor, David Mann, Hannah Kawano, Kevin Glynn, Mary Carletta Woodward, Montrese Chandler, Paula Yerman, Rick Stewart, Sabrina Simmons de Palivoda. I hope I did everyone's name right. That is your board, and we are looking to expand that, so if you're interested and you've been dying to come on board, no pun intended, please let us know. These are the most important people coming up. Those are your 29 block captains. I would like a really big round of applause for your block captains. Many of you don't know the communication that's going on, but we have an extensive web of communication between block captains. We have really an emergency alert system. We are totally connected with LAPD. We have our hand on the red phone. Is that from Batman? I can't remember. But thank you, block captains. You really are that important, and we are looking to, we have 55 blocks. So if you're on a block without organization, block captain, earthquake preparedness, you're really missing out. It's called FOMO. I want you to join in. I'd like to take a moment for you to just quickly, very quickly, say hello to the neighbor behind you and next to you. You've got about 15 seconds. Say hello to everyone. That's right. Now, wasn't that nice? After 4 years of not seeing people, these are your neighbors. We work together, and we have probably, no, we don't probably. We have the best community in Los Angeles. We are Miracle Mile. All right, so let's get down to business. You have some question cards. We had a huge outpouring of questions via the newsletter and website. We thank you very much for submitting your questions. We received them. We have taken out the ones that we feel were important to you, the ones that were most reoccurring, and we provided them to your council members. And any questions that go unanswered, don't worry, they won't. We will follow up with our newsletter with answers to these questions. What you care about is very important to us, and LAPD, council members, board members, block captains, we all need to know what you want and what you're thinking. Raise your hand if you are a current dues-paying member of the MMRA. All right, round of applause for those people. Raise your hand if you are a little confused with our QR code system, but you have a check or you don't, but you intend to pay and you will become a dues-paying member of the MMRA. Raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you. We do have an exciting agenda. I'm going to get off the stage quickly because we have wonderful speakers, as you can see. We want to give everybody adequate time. So the first up is the wonderful Greg Goldin, the president of the Miracle Mile Residential Association.
Boy, thank you everyone for coming. Kari doesn't make it easy to follow that act. I feel like we've been at some sort of a party or perhaps the Ringling Brothers Circus, for those of you who remember what that was all about. So good morning. Thanks for the big turnout. We really appreciate it. I was asked by our board to give a State of the Neighborhood address, which I thought about long and hard because I'm not practiced. I don't do this sort of political speech that all of our elected officials have to do on a regular basis and provide you with the nitty-gritty of what they want you to hear once, twice, 3, 1,000 times over. And I suppose I could tell you all about what you generally think of as the state of our neighborhood. The 4 mega towers that are slated to come in along here on Wilshire Boulevard between La Brea and Curson, which are going to have mega impacts on the neighborhood. I could certainly pile on about our own lamentable experiences every single day, about the onslaught of traffic on our streets, barely pausing at the corner of Maslin and Olympic if you happen to be walking by there, or like my neighbor Nancy along 8th Street trying to make her way to Ralph's, or the speed bumps, which only seem to encourage them to hit the pedal to the metal and keep on going as fast as they can fly. I don't know where they're going, but they're certainly cutting right through our neighborhood. I could share with you, and Kari could give you even more, the regrettable crime statistics that don't begin to accurately reflect or convey the hurt, and occasionally much worse than the hurt that these numbers reflect. And certainly, I know for all of you, I could recount at length the desperate state of our fellow citizens living on the streets or in cars or campers, unhoused, sometimes unclothed, often a danger to themselves, sometimes a danger to us, as they say, there but for fortune, go you or I, if you believe such biblical injunctions. All of this is important. It shapes our daily lives in the neighborhood and has an outsized effect on all of us, and it's central to the work of the Miracle Mile Residential Association. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm here to tell you what I think is a little allegory about the neighborhood that I think reflects the true state of the Miracle Mile. I want to take you back to 1983, which, count them up. How many years ago is that? 41 years ago. When our former neighbor, Lynn Cohen, who was then living on Maslin Avenue, became concerned about a proposed development spanning from Wilshire Boulevard to 8th Street, from Maslin to Curson, which in those days, Sierra Bonita, for those of you who remember, ran straight through. It dead-ended at Wilshire Boulevard, and much of that land there had been completely cleared of the original duplexes and fourplexes that dated back to the 1920s. A few of them were still standing on Curson, on the east side of Curson. You can look at the beautiful aerial photographs of this if you want to look at them. So Cohen started going house to house, knocking on doors, gathering the names of her fellow residents to build what she called block clubs dedicated to addressing the largest proposed development in the Miracle Mile up to that time. We all know it today as the red brick granite Wilshire Courtyard, 1 million square feet of office space, which I should tell you is more than 1/3 of the ground floor space in the Empire State Building. It's a big development. Those block clubs, which originally consisted of nothing more than long paper lists of names and addresses and telephone numbers, no emails back then, accomplished something remarkable. They got the developer to agree to push his buildings to the east, to the west, I'm probably pointing the wrong ways, and the north boundaries of his land, to cap the height at 6 stories, to close Sierra Bonita, which allowed their biggest ask, which they won. Our linear park, which spreads across 2 blocks, has a children's playground, a gazebo, a pond, lush landscaping, meandering paths, and is a true buffer between a huge office complex and the homes just to the south. So began the Miracle Mile Residential Association. I see in this allegory the true inception of the MMRA, its raison d'etre, which was public spiritedness, a continuous story of citizens of the Miracle Mile coming together and acting as citizens should, making our voices and concerns known, literally knocking on doors, canvassing to work together to build the kind of place we want our neighborhood to be. And I know this very much firsthand, since like so many others in the neighborhood, that little park was the place my wife and I took our infant daughter to get some fresh air, where she played with other kids from the neighborhood surrounding streets, where she banged her chin on one of the concrete walls and had to be rushed to the now shuttered, in fact, practically dismantled, Midway Hospital for her first stitches. And this is only one aspect of the Miracle Mile that gives our neighborhood meaning, and is the kind of thing we try at the MMRA to preserve and promote. Most of the time, we don't even think about how much these blocks are our home in the deepest sense, reflecting our interests, our memories, our hopes. We take it for granted that we can go for an evening stroll, chat with the neighbors, have block parties, or nap on our front porches. For each of us, I think the Miracle Mile is something a bit different. Some of us like to park ourselves on a bench when the weather is dry and warm, to enjoy what the Italians call la dolce far niente, for those of guys who know the sweetness of doing nothing, sunbathing alongside the turtles in the park. For others, the neighborhood is about the architecture, from the diminutive, near-perfect Art Deco Desmond's building, point that way, to Rudolf Schindler's Buckhouse over on 8th and Genesee, to the Norman-style chateau between Wilshire and 8th, for those of you who know that building, to the rows of our beloved, nearly now 100-year-old Spanish colonial revival homes. Some of us will argue that it's the burritos at Sonora Town, or those at El Cartel, or maybe it's the garlic salmon chicken rice bowls at Yuko Kitchen that hits the spot, or a cheeseburger at Irv's, hooray for Irv's for opening up over there, or a mezcal at the All Season Brewery in our love, in the restored Firestone Tire and Rubber at 8th and La Brea, an exquisite example of streamlined modern, which I realize, is outside of the boundaries of the Miracle Mile. Or maybe, like me, I'm a woodworker. You are constantly looking up into the canopy of street trees, from peppermint to ironbark eucalyptus to hollyoak to London plane to aromatic camphors to the burnt umber of our knurled and knobby carobs. Maybe you love the sheltering majesty of the oaks forming that arbor on Hauser between 8th and 9th. I've probably gilded the lily much too much here, yet I haven't even mentioned the great window displays at the Craft Contemporary, not to mention its wonderful galleries upstairs, and the Green Hornet, like 1925 Rolls-Royce Phantom at the Peterson, for those of you who love cars, as I do, the slow motion unveiling of LACMA's new museum, or the disaster film series, which ends tomorrow, by the way, at the Academy Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, at the old May Company, which, if you missed Volcano, by the way, folks, you missed seeing our neighborhood, right, totally destroyed in a flow of lava. Although Tommy Lee Jones did save us. So all of these interests, likes, passions, pastimes, and histories bind us together to each other and give our neighborhood an identity. We share it, we live it, we build it together, whether we are in the Nonagenarian Club on Dunsmuir, some of whose members have lived there for more than 60 years, or a newborn baby whose family has just moved into an apartment down the block last month. This, in a nutshell, I think, is why the MMRA is here, to practice sustainability in its truest form, to keep our neighborhood vibrant, thriving with new energy, and to hold on to traditions while breaking new ground, to tend to each other. So, once again, welcome to everyone here today. And before I introduce our first guest, Maya Guevara, who is here as is the right way to put it, Maya? As a stand-in for Heather Hutt, who is feeling under the weather. She is our Council District 10 council member. I just want to urge you, again, as Kari did, to join the MMRA. It costs you all of $25 a year for a family membership. Joe Steins, our brilliant master of arithmetic and accounting, said that's 7 cents a day. That's pretty cheap. And if you do, we got a couple of goodies to tell you about. We have for 5, we're going to do a drawing, not today, we'll do it after, but 5 pairs of tickets to the Peterson, 5 pairs of general admissions tickets to the Academy Museum, and then for one lucky winner, 1 pair of tickets to the Oscar night special event at the Academy. And if you look that one up, that's a really good one. It's worth joining many times over to the MMRA. So take your chances. I hope someone wins. And please do fill out the little thing that we've passed around asking you to volunteer the clipboard. Look, if you give us a half an hour a month, that's going to help keep our neighborhood the way that we all want it. You know, just plug in. We're trying to get a dog park at the tar pits. We want to restore our historic street lights. We want to put in new HPOZ signs all around the neighborhood. We want to bring more people to Operation Sparkle to clean up Wilshire Boulevard and Olympic and La Brea, which we do. We walk and we clean the streets. We'd like people to contribute to the newsletter, become a block captain. Hey, join the board. So with that, Maya, step on up, regale us. And thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry, let me adjust this. I'm a little, can you hear me okay? Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mayra Guevara, and as you may know, the councilwoman is not in attendance today. As you may know, she has been ill, and she was unable to go to council all week. So I'm here to represent her. Miracle Mile Residential Association borders that are within CD10 are south of Olympic, east of Cochrane, to San Vicente, to La Brea. With that being said, thank you, MMRA, for submitting questions ahead of time. But before I get started answering questions, I would like to present a small token of appreciation to the MMRA from Councilwoman Hutt. And it is a certificate of appreciation. So I would like to present this on her behalf, and I'll place it right here. For your work and your dedication to community, we honor you.
Take this out of your hands.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Where are we going to hang this?
The president should have it.
Oh dear, I don't need any more memorabilia.
All right, so for question number 1, should I read out the questions or should just, okay. Question 1, in our annual survey of residents, one of the top issues was preservation of our historic neighborhood. Both our homes and the Art Deco buildings on Wilshire, we have an HPOZ, but the city does very little to nothing to enforce its guidelines. It is HPOZ enforcement a priority for your office? And if not, why not? If so, what can you do to get the rules enforced? The answer is, the councilwoman will convene a meeting with our planner, Hakeem Park Davis, with a designated representative from your group to meet regularly with the people from planning who regularly see issues with HPOZ on a regular basis. So that's a commitment that councilwoman has made for MMRA. Moving on to question number 2. Pardon me? Yes, it is, which is why she's convening these meetings and making sure that they're taking place on a regular basis. Question number 2. Traffic is a perennial nightmare, and since the pandemic ended, it has only become worse. In our CD10 portion of our neighborhood, the chief problem is San Vicente Boulevard, where traffic backs up between Fairfax and La Brea, due to the road diet to incorporate the newly installed bike lanes. We have lost 2 of 6 lanes and noticed horrible backup and delays during rush hour traffic. Sadly, the bike lanes that we were told would immediately populate with non-motorized commuters have remained totally empty. Rarely do we see any bicyclists on these east-west routes, yet at a rush hour, we are stuck in gridlock and our side streets are subject to instant cut-through motorists. What measures does your office support for addressing the traffic jam on this vital artery? Has LADOT or CD10 performed any follow-up study to assess the impacts of adding these bike lanes? So the answer from the councilwoman is, the councilwoman has directed the Department of Transportation, LADOT, to do two things. One, check when was the last time the department synchronized the lights and checked people's travel time. I don't think that's been done since the installment. Number two, conduct a traffic count and ask if cars are cutting through to install speed humps to slow down residential streets. Once we get the results from the Department of Transportation, traffic count, we will look at alternative options that will decrease gridlock and improve traffic flow. Question number 3. What can be done to protect our renters? The Miracle Mile has a larger rental population than single family. Most of the apartments here are rent stabilized, but developers can use things like Ellis Act to evict tenants and build luxury apartments. What hope can you offer to tenants losing their homes to up zoning and needless luxury development? How can we spare tenants from the inevitable side into homelessness caused by evictions? So the answer from the councilwoman is, in order to preserve our rental housing stock and increase affordable housing in the city, Councilwoman Hutt is preparing a motion that will require 1-for-1 replacement of all rent-controlled housing, RSO housing, and that's Rent Stabilization Ordinance. When a new building is built and maintained as SRO housing, as well as looking at requiring an additional 10% amount of affordable housing be included for a total amount of 20% additional affordable housing. We need to do more to protect affordability for our housing stock, and it will take a very long time to build out of this problem. We still have a lot of illegal evictions and cash for keys in rent control apartments, particularly in Mid-City, Koreatown, and West Adams. Councilwoman Hutt is working with the Los Angeles Housing Department to educate renters about illegal evictions and what is required when a developer wants to take RSO housing off the market. So again, this is a motion that the councilwoman is working on. It hasn't been introduced yet, so you're the first to know about this. Now, question number 4. Along San Vicente, we have an average 2 to 4 campers parked with unhoused individuals for extended periods of time, often months. What can your office do to prevent camping on the San Vicente medians? CD5 has posted no pedestrian signage on the San Vicente median west of Fairfax all the way to Beverly Hills. Will you follow suit on the stretch of San Vicente within your district? And the councilwoman's response to your question is yes. She's actually directed me to contact LAPD, DOT, to see what needs to be done in order to place those signages. So that is a commitment from Councilwoman Heather Hutt, and that concludes the 4 questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayra. We did have an additional question come in, and there is a lot of questions coming in, which is great. And like I said, we will address them hopefully today, and if not, do not worry, every question will get answered. But we did have a question about sidewalks. Are you able to read that? Do you want me to read it to you? This question is, the city planted the wrong kind of trees on the strip of land between the sidewalk and the road. These tree roots have and continue to break the sidewalk. It's the city's responsibility, not the homeowners. Thank you, but
the city wants the homeowners
to pay for them.
Damage. They're wrong trees issued, and I don't know what that means.
All right.
Sometimes to cause.
Yes, they want the city to pay, Mayra.
Right. I don't have an answer to that question, but I will get back to you on that. The Department of Urban Forestry, they're very, how can I say this, passionate about preserving healthy trees. So when we talk about removing a tree, if the tree is healthy, that is a challenge. And also funding. We need to look for additional funding sources regarding sidewalks. That is something that the councilwoman is looking into, which is why I said, we will need to get back to you on that, because we're currently exploring options, because this is something that has come to our office regarding sidewalks.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayra, and I hope that Councilmember Hutt is feeling better. All right, next up is your council member representative from Council District 5, Katy Yaroslavsky. I just wanted to thank you very much for coming. I understand there was a loss in your family. The entire Miracle Mile Residential Association Board and neighborhood extends their condolences, and thank you for making this your first visit. So please welcome up to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here. This is my first thing in a couple of weeks, so if I'm a little rusty and overexhausted, I hope you'll forgive me. I want to thank Greg, the board, the Residents Association, the Korean Cultural Center for hosting today. I want to thank all of you for being here. It's heartening to see so many people who care about their neighborhoods. Thank you, Mayra, for being here. I don't know, where's Mayra? Thank you for being here on behalf of Councilwoman Hutt. She and your office have been a great partner with us. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. I want to thank my team who's here. Tao Tran is the field rep for this part of the district. She's also your neighbor. She lives very close by and has been deeply invested in this community for a lot longer than before I thought about running for office, and so it's great to have her partnership. And Jocelyn Tabata from my team is also here, so if you don't know Jocelyn, you should. She's sort of a Jill of all trades. So I'm the councilwoman for the 5th Council District. Just quickly, that includes most of you. The district runs from the 405 east all the way over to the edge of K-Town, so western is the easternmost boundary, ironically. And then the northern boundary is Mulholland at the top of the Santa Monica's, and then the southern boundary's funky because as it moves east, it cuts north, but it's Palms, and then for a while, Pico's the boundary, and then for a while, all the way to western, Olympic is the boundary, the southern boundary. So it's kind of funny looking. Anyway, I'm really grateful for the chance to be here to talk to you about some of the work we've been doing this last year. I took office last December, so 2 Decembers ago. I want to talk about priorities, answer some of the questions that the board already sent me, and then if there's time for additional questions, I'm happy to do that as well. We're also going to be opening, our field office is on Wilshire at La Jolla, but we're actually moving to a new space that is much more conducive to community engagement. It's a ground floor, street level space that we'll be using for community events that's going to be opening just east of here on Wilshire, near the new Expo station, like across the street. So, or not Expo, I'm sorry, the Purple Line. So priorities, and I'll talk a little bit about each of them in detail, and then I don't want to talk too much, I want to answer questions. So number one priority is around addressing our homelessness crisis and housing affordability. Second priority is about building more livable communities by making it safer for people to get out of their cars, safer and friendlier for people to go to their corner coffee shop, dare I say, a hardware store, or just to get out in their neighborhoods, go walk to the park, feel safe, have shade, all of the things that make for a pleasant neighborhood. Talk a little bit about that. Third priority is around increasing transparency and accountability at City Hall. It's been very hard to come into a place, to a new body as a new member, where there's so much distrust. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the things we've been working on to try and rebuild that trust and actually hold ourselves accountable to the public and to each other. And then fourth is really about making LA a more welcoming and safe place for all of us. Public safety is, I think, the #1 job of the city. And so I'm really grateful for the partnership that we have with LAPD and the great work we've started to undertake together. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So first priority is around housing and homelessness. We've been working very hard to bring more people inside, to resolve encampments. We've had 4 Inside Safe operations, which is the mayor's initiative, basically of bringing all the departments together, pairing unhoused people with beds and services, and then just clearing those encampments and keeping them clear. The most recent in our district was at Poinsettia Park just last week. We moved more than, I think, 50 people inside, most in our district, some in Council District 13. Happy to answer questions about that. And then we've had 2 additional large-scale encampment resolutions working with LASA, the regional homeless service provider. These areas have not repopulated. The one closest to here is the one on San Vicente. We've worked very closely with LAPD, my homeless outreach team, to make sure that those tents aren't coming back. I think you've noticed that they haven't. The fencing is coming down soon, if it hasn't already. And we're really going to be doing some landscaping improvements and things like that and keeping it clear. A really important piece of why it's been frustrating and taken longer than it should to resolve encampments is that Council District 5 has the fewest interim housing beds, homeless housing beds, of any district in the city. So there's about 17,000 interim beds, which are the types of housing that you move into immediately after coming off the street. Interim housing, it's called. We're the only district in the city that doesn't have any general population adult beds, which means that if you're between the ages of 18 and 55 and you don't have any dependents with you, or you're not a veteran, there are no beds in Council District 5 for you. None. Most of my colleagues have 1,000 or more beds on any given night that are available. Many of them are taken, but there are beds available. We don't have any. So that's been a pinch point in resolving encampments in our district because of the way the court has ruled that we have to move people out of homelessness and into beds. It's really a district by district approach, which doesn't work, and we're trying to resolve that. And Inside Safe has been great because we've been allowed to use beds from outside of the district, which I'm really grateful to my colleagues for and to the mayor for facilitating. But we need beds in our own district. And for a lot of people, that's uncomfortable because people don't want those beds in their neighborhoods, which I get, but we're committed to having 24-hour security, making sure these places are cleared of encampments at 1,000 feet, doing everything we can to make them be a benefit to the community by clearing encampments rather than continuing to ignore the problem. So we have Midvale Interim Housing Site, which is going to be the first general population adult housing in the district. It's on Pico, right across the street from where UCLA just bought the West Side Pavilion. We're working with UCLA right there to get additional parking to replace the city-owned parking lot that we're going to be building those beds on. It's a drop in the bucket, but we're going to be moving people through quickly and into permanent housing. So those 33 beds will get hundreds of people off the streets over the course of the project. It's really an important gap in our ability to solve this problem in the district, and we're going to be bringing more online too. The city won some significant funding from the state through the governor's program. There's going to be a senior interim housing site along National that's going to be 70-something beds. So we're already in the next year, we're going to be doubling the number of interim beds that we have in the district. Right now it's 99. By the end of this year, it's going to be more than 200, and we're just going to keep going from there. We're also working to codify Executive Directive 1, and we're doing it in a way. ED1 allows for the accelerated approvals of 100% affordable housing projects. The interim measure that we have in place right now, which was the mayor's interim directive, is going to be replaced with a more robust permanent one that allows for some more essential things that we want, like setbacks and shade trees and perhaps some parking and some height limits, and so some things like that, allowance for HPOZs. And so we're working to make sure we have a final codification of this really important ordinance that will allow us to build the affordable housing that we know we need, but to do it in a way that's a little more thoughtful and mindful of the neighborhood in which it's situated. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're working around housing. There's a lot more. Happy to answer questions about that later. Want to move on to livable communities because this should be such an amazing, walkable community, and in so many ways it is. There's a lot of work we're doing in other parts of the district that we're looking forward to doing here with the Purple Line coming in. So we've got a bus-only lane on Venice, bike lanes on Venice. We did that without removing hardly any parking. The business community's been pretty happy with it. We've made safety improvements to our streets in terms of new crosswalks and sidewalk fixing repairs. We're asking for a lot of money in this year's budget for dedicated funding for sidewalk improvements in Council District 5. It's taking too long to get our sidewalks fixed. We've installed over 30 speed humps around schools, with 70 being the goal for the end of this year. My district has a dedicated clean team where we have folks going out 5 days a week picking up trash, doing light tree trimming, weed abatement, graffiti removal, things like that. So if you see trash strewn about and you don't want to sit on hold with 311, call or email Tao. She's here, she has business cards, and we'll be out usually the same day, sometimes within hours. So we've collected so far over the last 9 months or so, 70,000 pounds of trash, debris, bulky items. So talk to Tao if you see it. I'm calling her all the time as I'm driving around the district, and the clean team's coming out. Third priority is really around increasing transparency and accountability at City Hall. You may have seen that a former council member just got sentenced to 13 years in federal prison. I mean, it's unacceptable. It's straight up unacceptable. And so there's steps we've been taking where we've identified gaps in terms of what we see as being conflict of interest issues. And so, for example, we brought a motion that was adopted that's going to require disclosures when an elected official or their staff is a registered lobbyist. When the spouse of an elected official. That happened with the Bulgari hotel project. Just simple things that you think would be law that aren't law. We were also going to be establishing an Office of Compliance to make sure that council members aren't voting on things where there's a conflict. Because there's so much that we're voting on all the time, it's important that we have a third party that's helping us clear conflicts. We have that I'm on the Metro Board. We have that at the Metro Board. They tell us what our conflicts are, what we can't vote on. It's just helpful. We have it at the Air Quality AQMD Board. It's just a standard best practice, and we don't have it here. And so it's a simple thing that we're going to do. So there's a lot more. I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to having strong ethics rules, which my office has stronger rules even than what the city requires. And so we're really trying to create a space that is transparent and ethical. It's important to me. More than ever now, when people don't believe in government, it really undermines democracy when people don't believe in their elected officials and their government. So we're working on it. And then the fourth priority, which perhaps I should have started with because it's, I think, for many people the most important thing, perhaps next to homelessness, is around public safety and making sure that everyone feels and is safe in Los Angeles. We've seen a really shocking increase in the number of reported hate crimes and hate incidents across categories. I'm Jewish, and I'm not frankly surprised by that uptick in anti-Semitism. There's a lot more AAPI hate than there has been. Hate against Black and brown people, LGBTQ people, all of it is up in alarming ways. And I just want you to know that for me, this is a priority. And I've been working really closely with Chief Moore, with groups like the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, and others, the city's Civil and Human Rights Commission, to do everything we can to make it easier for people to report a hate crime and incident. You used to have to go into a station to report it. Now you can do it on your phone. That's a new development. And then making sure that the police department is being sensitive to people coming in and making it easy for people to do it who choose to still come in. I take this issue very seriously. It's deeply personal to me. And then I want to talk a little bit about public safety beyond hate crimes and hate incidents. People don't feel safe in Los Angeles right now, which is why I was proud to support the new police contract, which is expensive. It's going to cost us a lot of money as a city, but it's important that we pay our officers enough to keep them. Right now, we're training people, and then they're going off to the Santa Monica Police Department, Beverly Hills, LA County Sheriffs. They all pay much more than LA does. So how can we expect to keep police officers when we're not paying them enough? At the same time, we have a lot of work to do around alternative crisis response. A police officer is not the right person to respond to every incident. Often when you have an unhoused person or someone dealing with a mental health crisis, you don't want a police officer there. They don't want to be there. We don't want them to be there. And so we're standing up an alternative crisis response team that will be led by social workers and mental health professionals who can respond and be deployed quickly to really be the right response. And then that frees up LAPD and LA Fire Department to respond to the appropriate calls, right? Response times are too high. We all know that. I've been hearing from constituents that sometimes it's taken 20 minutes for police to get there. We need more 911 dispatchers too. So there's a lot of work we need to be doing. And it's all going to cost money, right? And so right now we just had a big item on the agenda yesterday at council about our budget forecast, and weighing the needs of hiring people and being able to pay them what they're worth so they stay, and what that means to the total number of people we can afford to have. So we're having hard conversations, trying to find the right balance, figuring out how to be more efficient with what we do have. So these are all conversations that are going on right now. So I'm going to stop there. I could keep going, but I will stop. I've gotten some questions from the board that I quickly want to address, and then I can take a few questions, and our office is only a phone call away. So some of the questions that I got ahead of time from the board. How do you propose to revitalize Wilshire and the Miracle Mile? This is what I mean when I was talking about livable communities. You know, part of the issue, as you all know, because you're living with this, is that it's not walkable, and we've got all this construction happening with the subway coming in. It's not bustling and activated and vibrant in the way that I think we all expect it to be. And just so you know, I live a 5-minute drive from here. I'm at Olympic in La Cienega, basically. So I feel like this is my neighborhood too. I'm here all the time. You know, we need more trees, activated storefronts, more accessible transportation. I think when the Purple Line opens next year, it's going to be a game changer, and there's going to be a lot of money that the city's going to be required to invest in first mile, last mile, so how people get to these stations, that's going to really transform what these neighborhoods feel like. So that's exciting. But I also want to acknowledge how hard it's been for the last, what feels like forever with this construction. It's been a lot. Businesses have suffered. It's been hard for you all to walk around your neighborhood, to walk along Wilshire. There's a lot of homelessness that we're still working to resolve, obviously. So all of this is something that we're focused on. I think it's really exciting, though, and I think that it's going to solve for a lot of what the frustrations are around cut-through traffic. Someone talked about the bike lane that leads to nowhere on San Vicente. I think we should finish the bike lane and get it all the way to the Purple Station. And there's going to be a way to do, because if you can't ride your bike along a bike lane to get to the place you want to go, no one's going to use the bike lane. But we've seen on Venice, where we have a bike lane now that stretches miles long, people are using it, and they're using it to get to the subway, they're using it to go to the market. I see parents riding their kids to preschool. It's a protected bike lane. And so I think that there's gaps in it right now, and so we need to do it right. I've committed to not talking about it until the Purple Station opens, because right now San Vicente is a pressure valve for traffic east-west that Wilshire usually takes. So we're working on all of it, but I think the Purple Line is going to solve for a lot of problems, and if managed well, it's just pure opportunity for us to do it right. So I'm looking forward to having those conversations with all of you. We're going to be holding some community meetings as it gets closer to these stations opening, so that we can all be part of the conversation about what we want to see for our neighborhoods. Another question was about HPOZ enforcement. Is it a priority for your office, and if not, why not? If so, what can you do to get the rules enforced? So I'm a huge supporter of HPOZs. I live in an HPOZ, and I think that they're part of what makes Los Angeles unique and special and unlike any other city in the world. And the HPOZ boards that are in place in each of the neighborhoods that make up the city are run differently, and our office can be as engaged or unengaged as the HPOZ wants, right? So I'm happy to have my planning team sit down with the HPOZ board to talk about how we can get better compliance. And then as we move forward with ED1 codification, the Affordable Housing Streamlining Ordinance, you know, how do we make sure that we're allowing affordable housing, but making sure it's consistent with the neighborhood character and scale. So happy to talk more about that and have our planning team connect with the HPOZ board here. So what measures does your office support for both immediate ways of addressing dangerous traffic on our residential side streets? So cut-through traffic is a huge issue. My street that I live on is a cut-through street. It's obnoxious and dangerous, and I've got little kids, and it's terrifying. It puts all of our lives at risk, right? We know that cars are the #1 killer of kids in LA. I walk my kids across a busy street to school every day, and every time I worry, right? It's a 6-lane highway, basically. This is personal for me, and it's something that I'm committed to prioritizing, and we're allocating and making budget requests that reflect that for this coming year, really focusing on things like flashing crosswalk lights, Speed humps weren't appropriate. Roundabouts, when we can afford them. Apparently a roundabout costs like more than $1 million. It's crazy. Stop signs. All of these are things so that we want to hear from you. So if your street is one of these cut-through streets and you have ideas, and we want to know exactly where it is, we want to know exactly like the time of day. You know, maybe there's restrictions on turning depending on the time of day. So there are a lot of solutions that we want to work with each of you to the extent you're interested on what you need in your street. And so just reach out to Tao about that and we'll get connected to the planning team. I also, and this gets back to the purple line, but I do think that when we do the purple line, it will be done right. We've done a lot of work to make the whole system safer over the last 9 months. And if you've heard the news that it's just a mess down there, I encourage you to give it another try because we spent billions of dollars with a B on police overtime, safety ambassadors. There's a lot of security down there. There's better lighting. There's a better presence with just people who work for Metro. So I encourage you to give it a shot. We're committed to making sure that the system is safe and to be bringing people back onto it in the post-COVID reality. And I think once we get the system and where we need it to be, and these stations open in your neighborhood, I think it's going to be great for traffic. I think it's going to really alleviate traffic, and it's going to allow you another option if you don't want to get in your car. Question about the La Brea tar pits proposal. Will my office support a more careful review of the plan at the La Brea tar pits to reduce the park and tree canopy and the lack of a guarantee of a much-needed dog park? So we're happy to engage on this. I actually, my prior job, I worked for then LA County Supervisor Sheila Kuehl doing arts and creative economy work for her, among other things. And I was part of the process that selected the architect and the design proposal for it. So I have a good relationship with Lori Bettison-Varga, who's the president of the museum, and I know the architecture team. I know the proposal. I think they're very far away from having the money they need to actually do this thing. So I think it gives us a lot of time to work with them to make sure that the community's desires and needs are met. And I understand that a dog park is something that's really important to this community. So I'm committed to fighting for it. And then in terms of tree preservation, I think we can save whatever trees we can and insist that when you replace trees, you're replacing them with big mature trees and not like the little matchsticks. So there's a lot we can do around that as well. So I'm happy to take a few questions.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. I don't know if they can hear me, sorry. Thank you so much. You have literally nailed almost every question, and the audience had repetitive questions regarding the topics you mentioned. So
Okay,
thank you so much. There was a question that came in regarding sanitation and cleanup on entrance to freeways, and also a lot of questions coming in about trash along Wilshire. So since we have you here, we're wondering if we could get a response to the entrance to the freeways, but we really would
Can
love
we, before, my brain is not working right. So,
trash.
yeah.
that Tao?
Trash or encampments or some combination of the two? Is it like trash related to encampments or is it?
I think we can all say that we would like the trash picked up along Wilshire. We only have broken trash cans, and it's overflowing from all of our fast food places, Five Guys, etc. Not to blame them. We would
Not
love
to be specific.
yeah, exactly. We'd love for you to revisit the boulevard in terms of how many trash cans are out there, so we can avoid that pending blight that we are seeing overflowing trash cans. It would really help. We've had problems in the past with knowing that LA Sanitation doesn't have the funds for it. So
Okay.
here we go. We're just calling you out right now.
Yeah. I get that from them a lot too. So, look, we have some money that we can deploy discretionary dollars. We can have the clean team come out regularly and help pick up trash. We did a trash cleanup with the community a couple months ago, which I thought was kind of cool. That was fun, but it shouldn't be on you guys to pick up the trash. So, look, we can get more trash cans out there. We'll work on prioritizing it. We'll work with sanitation to make sure that the trash cans are picked up more regularly. And I'll call the head of sanitation after I leave. Yeah. And what the other one was about?
The entrance to freeway, someone's very specifically, which I think we've all seen, that there's a lot of trash along the freeway entrances. It's disgusting to smell and see.
Yes. So a couple of things. We do these things called Care Pluses, which are basically power washing, big cleanups where excess stuff from encampments that folks don't need or are unsafe are thrown away. And we've been scheduling those fairly regularly. and it gives a chance to clean out encampments and get rid of stuff that is just sort of overflowing. But along on the embankments to the freeways, that's Caltrans. I sit next to the director of Caltrans on the Metro board, so I can talk to her about that if there's specific places, because we don't have jurisdiction once you start going up the freeway. But if you're talking about under the freeways, that's just call TOW, and we'll do a clean team cleanup. Our clean team does those sorts of cleanups every day, or not every day, 5 days a week, business hours.
Perfect. That was it. A round of applause and thank you.
There's one question from.
We're actually
Oh, okay.
we're going to take them all on question
Okay.
cards,
Okay.
and we'll get back to them.
Okay.
But thank you so much. A
Thank you
round
so
of applause
much.
Again for Councilmember Yaroslavsky. I understand there are a lot of questions, and thank you for raising your hand. That means you're involved and we care. Question cards we're collecting them all. So if your question wasn't addressed so far, we will be getting to it. If not today, in the newsletter. Raise your hand if you subscribe to our newsletter. Oh, not 100%. Okay, I'll help you with that in the lobby. Also, we will have time afterwards to speak to the council members and their representatives. And I did want to bring up something that Councilmember Yaroslavsky brought up, and that was Operation Sparkle. That was fantastic. We are going to do it again, so if you're interested in that, let us know. And, we all want to get involved, because keeping that boulevard clean will represent who we are in the neighborhood, and that is a wonderful, pristine neighborhood. We love it. We want to keep it clean. All right, thank you for your patience. We have a few more speakers. We'll be moving along quickly here, but of course, the next one is one of my favorites, and that's Los Angeles Police Department, Wilshire Division. I'd like to bring up here Lieutenant Mark Rowe. Thank you so much for your time. Captain Sonia Monaco has retired. Come on up. Captain Sanchez is taking her place. However, she is attending a protest today, so we are so lucky to have Lieutenant Mark Rowe. Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Like Mayra, I am also a stand-in, okay? So I'm not as polished as with the public speaking, but bear with me here. Not just Wilshire Community Police Station, but the rest of the department, we're in a transition right now. Captain Monaco, as Kari mentioned, has decided to retire. I'm very happy for her. And your senior lead officer for this basic car area, Officer Anna Shuby, after 28 very distinguished years of service, also decided to retire. But don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. And as far as the chief of police goes, Mike Moore decided to retire. And the next chief will not be me. So again, you don't have to worry, okay? But speaking of the chief, when the city rolls out like a town hall kind of format to get your input about the chief of police, I encourage you to participate, because it's something that impacts all of us. So please keep an eye out for those opportunities to voice your opinion and provide your input, okay? I oversee the investigative function at the Wilshire Community Police Station. I oversee a team of about 30 very dedicated detectives and officers who take care of the investigations, okay? As far as today goes, public safety-wise, I want to reiterate the importance of the Senior Lead Officer Program. In the near future, because Officer Shuby, because of her retirement and the vacancy void that she's leaving, we are going to select a Senior Lead Officer to replace her, so that your neighborhood watch and all your efforts to address the crime and the quality of life issues can be properly addressed, okay? And you won't have to be stuck with people like me attending your meetings. But we have a team of, new senior lead officers usually come from the police officer pool. We have a lot of very good police officer 3s, dedicated and ready to replace her. We will try to replace her sooner than the new chief of police arrives. Okay, so in the near future, you will have a new senior lead officer who can help you out, who you can correspond with. And speaking of senior lead officers, one thing I wanted to impress is the importance of the Neighborhood Watch program. Okay, that was started in the early 70s by the LAPD, way before I came on. Okay, and it was started because Los Angeles back then, with only a couple thousand police officers, was deemed a very under-policed big city, okay? And 50 plus years later, guess what? Nothing's changed. We are still a very under-policed big city. But one of the many ways we make up for that is, we compensate for that, is we have very dedicated community members who care about their community. So the Neighborhood Watch program, it's geared towards you guys and girls to get to know each other, look out for each other, and keep in touch with your senior lead officer, whoever he or she is, correspond with him or her, so that we can work together, okay? Police officers are not designed to replace you and vice versa. But if we work together, I have no doubt that we can make a difference in the community that you live and work in and care about so much. Okay, and with that, I will conclude out of respect for the rest of the agenda. I want to thank Council District 5's Councilwoman Yaroslavsky, and I want to thank Mayra for taking all the difficult questions, leaving all the easy ones for me.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Rowe. We did have a question, and it's the famous question. You ready for it? Okay. The audience is concerned about public safety and wants to know why there is a delay in calls, often an hour, for a response from LAPD.
Calls for service can entail a lot of different things, okay? And when you call the communications center, the calls are screened and triaged a certain way. Basically, you can think of them being split up between emergency and non-emergency types of calls, okay? So our dispatchers, our dedicated civilian employees, are trained to basically screen everything the best they can, so then they can put a priority code on each call for service. Now, even I'll be the first to admit, having called myself for different reasons, I'm a city resident too, okay? I don't go home like this, you know, I could easily blend in as one of your neighbors as well, okay? But even a non-urgent call can be rather urgent for you, and we understand that. But when we have that many calls coming in, they just need to be prioritized a certain way. For emergency, urgent calls, I mean, that, of course, that's going to get priority. And even on those, there's room for improvement as far as response time, okay? Now, an example of a non-urgent call would be something like a noise complaint, your neighbor's having a party, and you just want to get to bed so you can go to work the next morning or something like that. I understand that those can, here in Wilshire, some of those can be in excess of 30 minutes, pushing an hour, and even beyond an hour, depending on what kind of call it is. It's something we're all stuck with together. It's very difficult to work around. We try to go to each one, but you know, these staffing shortages are not our friend, okay? I'm not here to encourage, you know, the council members and everyone else to vote for more police officers. I still think it's a matter of working together, and sometimes you guys can, as a community, can resolve some of those calls for service even before we get there. And especially the non-urgent ones. You know, I'm not asking anybody to put their own life at risk or anything like that, but as you work more with your senior lead officer, gradually you will notice how there's gonna be, you can develop an art to calling in, you can develop an art to looking out for your community with or without our help. So keep that in mind, and I'm sorry that there's no easy solution for response times, but in a nutshell, that's how it kind of works, and we can't. Some of it's out of our hands, and it's just very difficult to manage. Okay. Thank you so much. I think that was it. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I have one more question. What can we do as a community, in addition to the items you just mentioned, that we can handle things and plan how we're going to triage our calls? What else can we do to support Wilshire Division? Anything from food to not calling about the helicopter overhead. What can we do to support and help you?
No. You know what? Wilshire Community Police Station, I've worked at a lot of different places, and I never felt more appreciated than being at Wilshire, which is one of the many reasons I will not try to be the chief of police, because I don't want to leave Wilshire, okay? So I feel very fortunate to be at Wilshire. All our community members always takes turns bringing us food and showing how much they appreciate us. And I hope you know that on behalf of my colleagues, it goes both ways. The one favor I'll ask is, if you're not already in Neighborhood Watch, get to know who your block captain is, get to know who your new senior lead officer is, so you can stay involved. And even though we share this big, complicated city, if you work to make your neighborhood feel small in a good way, then that's all I ask.
Thank you, Lieutenant Rowe. Round of applause. Thank you so much. Your time is very valuable. Acronyms, and don't mind, he has a British accent, but we will listen. Community Emergency Response Team, and I am going to not do justice to all that Ben has been doing along with Scott Boyette, who is also our fellow neighbor. So Ben, you have the mic. I will kick you off Oscar style. Here he goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am a poster child for what happens if you answer an email from that woman. I've been in this neighborhood since 1991. I've been a renter, I've worked here, I own a house here, I've been here as part of the community for as long as I can remember. And then she called. And I became a member of the Neighborhood Watch. And then I became a double block captain. And then I went to CERT with several of you here. In fact, I know a disreputable amount of you, and this worries me. And once I did CERT, which is basically Community Emergency Resource Teams, I got sucked into it. And I'm now part of a 100-person crew that rides around in LAFD vehicles supporting them as force multipliers all over the city, even though my emphasis is this community. And also I'm now sworn with FEMA, and I'm now a medic, so there are all these other things that go with it. And it's all because of that woman dragging me and pulling me into the community. The good side and the bad side of this is, the bad side is there's a reason we're here and there's a reason we're needed. And so I want to talk about three little things that we're doing at the moment, one of which Kari just touched on, and that's communications, because there will be times when the phones are not working, our batteries run out, or everything is overloaded. And it's not just an earthquake. I mean, that's the preeminent thing that we all think about when we're thinking about Los Angeles. But as we've seen in recent years, there's also been disease, and there's been civil unrest, and there's also been fires that have caused power brownouts and stuff like this. And also, a way to communicate between the main centers, the main hubs of each neighborhood block, is just a way to remain assured within ourselves that things are not falling to pieces and that we are together and we can talk amongst each other. Also, if help is needed between one area and another. So for that, we have an FRS, which means Family Radio Service Network, that it goes between leads on each street, and we can communicate that way. We communicate a lot in other ways too, because somebody might need help from Neighborhood Watch on another street, not to intercede where the police should be, obviously, but just to provide support where is necessary and comfort where is necessary. So that's very important. That's an expanding network here. The chief of South Bureau LAFD supports this network, and we give training for it, and we communicate once a month on a basis of just getting in touch with each other and seeing how things go. Because if an earthquake does happen or something does happen, we get on that network too. There's actually a larger network that's part of the fire department and part of CERT that actually communicates. So if you communicate to me about what's going on your street, I communicate further upstairs on a bigger radio network. There are several houses in this neighborhood with very large radio masts on them, and then they communicate to the LAFD. One of the things the fire department and indeed the police department depends on is that they are not overwhelmed with reports and urgent calls for help in case of any emergency happening. You know that if an earthquake does happen, that the fire department will be there And you can wave at them as they drive by, and as the police department drive by. And the reason they're doing this is they're doing a street-by-street check that everything is going on. But the police, and especially my people, the fire department, and I say my people, not that I'm part of them, it's because I support them, are only going to accidents where there are mass casualty incidents. Somebody who helped do metro security and stuff like this. Everybody, you understand that a mass casualty incident is far more important than a single house is, because it's the greatest good for the greatest number, and that's just the way things are. Which when it comes back to us in CERT, and we help communicate further on up, we help do light search and rescue and stuff like this. And if any of you, because now we've reached the end of COVID, wish to take part in this, I can give out documents to see how you can get in touch with our South Bureau section, so you can help learn how to, if nothing else, not do what I do, but protect yourself, protect your loved ones, protect your home, protect your immediate block and community. It's just that. It's all we need. Become part of the solution, not the problem, insofar as you don't need people's help. You don't need the help of people in uniform. This comes to Rylan, which is Radio Los Angeles neighborhood. It has been fairly dormant because of COVID and staffing, but it is accelerating. I talked to the chief of the South Bureau, and he said, we have a devoted person who's meant to be handling just the South Bureau, and those people who ask for it will hopefully be put into the queue to get the help. And the Rylan is, of course, coming and specific to your block. It's your community, your people getting together so you can go over the basics of how to look after yourselves, your home, and the home of your neighbors in case of fire, in case of things falling down, in case of like medical. I mean, who here knows what the greatest amount of injuries caused by earthquakes are? Yes. Foot injuries, glass on the feet. Yes. Simple things like keeping a pair of shoes under the bed. Helpful, very helpful for all of us. So it's little things like that, not hard. And that's what we all hope. So Rylan, get involved with CERT, which I can get you details for as soon as this meeting is over, and also understanding the radio network, which is actually, it's really quite fun, is all helpful for our neighborhood. It's the Miracle Mile. You are my people. You are the people I've been around for 30 years. You're the people I depend on, and you're the people I hope will depend on me. And that, as I hope, just like somebody wishing to stay at Wilshire Station, is something that I wish to continue for as long as possible. Thank you.
All right, let's hear it for Ben Skerker. Raise your hand if you have completed the Rylan training. This is a very interactive group today. That's good. Wow. Nice. Let's get 90% before our next meeting next year. It's really important. Ben's being really nice. Just do it. Get prepared. Don't be afraid. In fact, when our block did it, everybody reported they felt prepared. They didn't have to worry about it. And the fear level came down. Because when you think about earthquake, we're all like, I don't want to think about it. But thank you very much, Ben. All right, our next speaker is Mary Carletta Woodward with our Historical Preservation Overlay Zone. She is our liaison for the MMRA, and she's going to give you a few words about our very important Historical Preservation Overlay Zone.
I just want everyone to say Miracle Mile. Miracle Mile. Yes, Miracle Mile. And thank you so much for coming. Wow, what a great turnout. We did a lot of work planning this, and to see your beautiful faces here from all our blocks is really, really great. I don't know if you know that in 2017, the HPOZ Historic Preservation Overlay Zone was attached to our neighborhood through the work of 2, 3, 4, 5 years of getting it done. And what it really means, you're a smart audience, I think you already know, but do we live in the most beautiful part of LA? Yes. And why? Because our 1920s, 30s, 40s, and even 60s homes have remained intact, so that when you walk your dog and your kids, you're looking around and going, not only are these houses beautiful, but the gardens are too. And I'm a dog walker, so I'm really seeing that with my own eyes. If you want to remodel, or your neighbors are new to the neighborhood, There is a packet that we at Miracle Mile Residential Association can send you because there are bylaws by which you can remodel your home. And the whole point is to preserve not only the value, because HPOZs add value to your home, but the aesthetics and the character remains in place. So we are working hard to get signs designated in our neighborhood so that when you're out walking your dog, your kids, or strolling with your friends, you can pat yourself on the back and go, I live in an HPOZ. So if you have any questions, email us. If you see any construction that you think might be something that is worth questioning, give us a byline, give us an email, give us a call. So again, thanks for your time, thanks for coming, and here's to our great neighborhood.
Thank you, Mary. For those of you who don't know, you can send emails at info@miraclemilela.com. That's the way you can get a hold of us easily. Well, to wrap it all up, believe it or not, I think we beat our clock, which is pretty good for a Saturday morning. And I wanted to thank every one of you for coming out, sitting through everything we've had to tell you today, to thank both of our council offices for being here, for, what can I say, the really intelligent remarks of our, I wish, senior lead officer, but you're not. Ben, for encouraging all of us to be really aware of how we can take care of our own selves, that we don't always have to be dependent on pushing those buttons 311, 911. And most of all, to all of you, because coming together is what makes our neighborhood strong and healthy and gives us some sense of the future. So, last little notes. Please, if you haven't joined the MMRA, we're going to say it again. It's cheap, $25. Do it. Please, if you still have a question card, we want them. We're going to tabulate all of them. We want to get them up on the website. We want to send them to the council offices or to, I don't know where else they may be addressed. I can't speak for them. And last but not least, we hope that in... Yes, I know. What can I tell you? Please, don't do it. You know, there are 101 such topics that we could cover. We could be here for hours and hours going over that. We do our best as an organization to look at these things. You want to get involved? Come to a meeting, become a block captain, become a board member, and bring it up. Or talk to Tao. She gives out her phone number on a regular basis. Last but not least, we hope to have a couple of very large block parties. We'd like people just to get together and have a good old time on some of the blocks in the neighborhood. We've thought about 9th Street, so that's something else you can be involved in. And that's all we have to say. Thank you. You can go out into the lobby that way, and we'll see you again. Sign up for everything you can, and have a great Saturday.